Imagine being the smartest person in any room you walk into. You're rich beyond belief. You've got a flying suit made of titanium. You've literally saved the entire universe. Twice. And you still can't sleep at night. You still wake up gasping from nightmares. You still sit alone at 3 a.m. staring at holographic blueprints trying to solve a problem that doesn't even exist yet. Sounds exhausting, right? But here's the thing nobody warned you about. By the end of this video, if you're a real Iron Man fan, you are going to feel something in your chest. And no, it's not an arc reactor, it's something much harder to fix. So buckle up, because we're about to break down why the greatest superhero who ever lived had the worst life imaginable. And yeah, by the end of this, you might actually cry. Welcome to the life of Tony Stark. Welcome to the life of Iron Man. And trust me, it is so much worse than it looks. We all grew up thinking Tony Stark had the perfect life. The guy literally opened a press conference once and said, "I am Iron Man," like it was the most casual thing in the world. No secret identity drama, no hiding in the shadows, just pure, unapologetic confidence. And honestly, that's kind of incredible. But here's what nobody talks about. Behind all that charm, all those one-liners, all that gold and red armor, there's a man who is quietly, constantly, absolutely falling apart. Today we're breaking down why being Iron Man, despite everything it looks like from the outside, is genuinely one of the worst deals in the entire Marvel universe. Not because he's weak, but because his life is a masterclass in having everything and still suffering. Let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious. Tony Stark is a genius. Not just, oh, he's pretty smart, genius. We're talking about a man who built a functional suit of armor in a cave, with scraps, while being held hostage. That's not intelligence. That's a whole different category of human brain that the rest of us simply don't have access to. And on top of that, he's filthy rich. Malibu mansion on a cliff, private jets, a personal AI assistant named Jarvis who basically runs his entire life and never complains about it. Which, honestly, makes Jarvis the real hero of this story. But that's a conversation for another day. By every possible measure, Tony Stark should be the happiest man alive. He should be on a beach somewhere, drink in hand, completely and totally unbothered. But instead, he's in his basement at midnight, building his 14th suit, muttering to himself, surrounded by empty coffee cups and unfinished equations. Because here's the cruel reality of being a genius. Your brain never stops. Ever. While normal people get to clock out at 5 p.m. and just exist for a few hours, Tony's brain is running calculations 24/7. Every problem he sees, he's already 3 steps into solving it before most people have even registered that there is a problem. Sounds cool in theory. Sounds absolutely exhausting in practice. And the money? The money just funds the obsession. It doesn't buy peace. It doesn't buy rest. It just means the lab is bigger and the suits are shinier. But the man inside the suit is still the same anxious, overworked, deeply unsettled person he's always been. All the billions in the world and Tony Stark could not buy himself a single quiet night. Now we need to talk about the thing that started all of this. Because you cannot understand Iron Man without understanding Afghanistan, without understanding what happened in that cave. Tony Stark gets kidnapped. He's in the middle of a weapons demonstration. His own weapons, by the way. Weapons his company built. And everything goes wrong. He gets captured by terrorists. He takes shrapnel to the chest, and he wakes up in a cave with a car battery connected to a magnet, keeping the metal from reaching his heart. A car battery, keeping him alive, in a cave. Most people in that situation would shut down completely, understandably, justifiably. But Tony? Tony builds a suit of armor and escapes, which is amazing and heroic and all of that. But let's not skip past what that experience actually did to him, because this is where it gets real. Tony Stark sat in that cave and watched his own weapons, weapons with his name on them, weapons he built and sold and never thought twice about, being used against innocent people. He watched the direct physical consequence of his choices. And that doesn't just go away. That kind of thing rewires you. That kind of thing follows you into every quiet moment you ever have for the rest of your life. The machine keeping him alive. Here's something that sounds like a superpower, but is actually a nightmare. Tony Stark needs a machine to stay alive. That glowing device in his chest, the thing that everyone thinks looks so cool, is the only thing standing between him and death. Without it, The shrapnel near his heart would kill him. He is literally dependent on technology to exist. Imagine that for a second. Imagine needing a device implanted in your chest just to wake up in the morning. Imagine that every single day, before you can do anything else, before breakfast, before coffee, the first thing you have to confirm is that the thing keeping your heart running is still working. Every battle, every hit, every time the armor takes damage, he's not just risking the mission, he's risking his own heartbeat. Literally. The rest of us complain when our phone battery drops below 20%. Tony Stark goes into battle knowing that if things go wrong, the device in his chest might give out. And he goes anyway. Every single time. Which is either the bravest thing imaginable or a very concerning relationship with his own mortality. Possibly both. Let's talk about the enemies, because Tony Stark has made a spectacular, almost impressive collection of people who want him dead. And not just random enemies, deeply personal, deeply motivated, deeply obsessed enemies. There are people whose entire life mission is revenge on him. There are people he casually dismissed at a party who then spent years plotting elaborate revenge. The list goes on and on. And here's the thing that makes it worse. Most of these enemies exist because of Tony. Not because he's randomly evil, he's not. But because his choices, his weapons, his past, his casual carelessness created consequences that came back to haunt him. And they don't just come after him. They come after the people around him. His home gets destroyed. The woman he loves gets threatened. People he cares about get put in danger because of who he is. Imagine going to sleep every night knowing that your past mistakes have a list and they're working through it. That's Tony Stark's reality. The ego problem. Now let's be honest about something. Tony Stark is not easy to be around. The man has an ego the size of a small planet. And while it's entertaining to watch from a distance, it creates real, significant problems in his actual life. He cannot take criticism. He cannot follow orders. He cannot work within a system without immediately trying to be in charge of it. Put him in a room with other brilliant people and within 5 minutes he's corrected someone, dismissed someone else, and somehow made the whole thing about himself. It's almost a talent. And this ego costs him. It costs him relationships. It costs him allies. It nearly destroys everything around him more than once. But here's the sad part. The ego is armor too. It's just a different kind. Because underneath all that confidence and all those quips and all that swagger is a man who is deeply, genuinely terrified. The endgame cost. And then there's the ending. The actual final ending of Tony Stark's story. Tony had found it. He had actually found peace. A house on a lake. A daughter who called him daddy and made him drawings. Mornings that were slow and quiet. Coffee that actually got finished before it went cold. A version of his life that wasn't on fire for once. He had stepped back. He had let go. And for a little while, just a little while, Tony Stark was happy. And then the past came knocking again, as it always does. And Tony, being Tony, couldn't say no. Not because he was forced, not because he had no choice, but because when it came down to it, that sense of responsibility, that bone-deep conviction that if he could do something, he should, was simply more powerful than his desire for the quiet life. He figured it out. He went on the mission. He fought the battle. And at the end of it, with everything hanging in the balance, he did the only thing left to do. And it killed him. 5 years of peace. A daughter who will grow up without her father. A family that watched it happen. All of it. The sacrifice of the one good chapter he finally got to live. So here's where we land. And I'm going to be honest with you. This one hit differently, didn't it? Tony Stark was supposed to be the fun one, the witty one, the guy who made being a superhero look cool, the guy who walked into press conferences like he owned the universe. He had everything. And then he had a lake house, a little girl who called him daddy, slow mornings, coffee that actually got finished before it went cold. 5 years of being just a person, not a weapon, not the solution. Just a dad who fixed things around the house and occasionally built something in the garage. And when the world came knocking one last time, he could have said no. He had earned that no. He had paid for that no 100 times over, in caves and battlefields and sleepless nights and shrapnel and nightmares. and a chest device that reminded him every single morning that he was on borrowed time. But he said yes, because that's who Tony Stark was. Not the suit, not the money, not the genius. Just a man who, when it mattered most, could not look away from a problem he could solve, even when solving it cost him everything. He went from, "I am Iron Man," said with a smirk at a press conference, to, "I am Iron Man," said with a broken hand and a cracked suit and the full knowledge of what came next. Same words, completely different weight. And somewhere out there, a little girl is growing up with a piece of technology her father made, and a drawing on her wall, and a mother who tells her stories. And the world she's growing up in, the complete, restored, living world, exists because her dad said yes one last time. If that doesn't make you feel something, I don't know what will. And look, I know this video was supposed to be funny, and it was, for a while. The coffee that was never finished, the phone battery comparison, the yacht he definitely never relaxed on, the press conference where he casually announced his entire secret identity like it was a pizza order. But somewhere in the middle of all that, Tony Stark got us again, like he always does. Because the funniest characters always hide the deepest wounds, and the ones who make us laugh the hardest are usually the ones carrying the most. The genius who could not turn his brain off. The man kept alive by a machine in his chest. The father who came home from the worst day of his life and chose a lake house over a war, and then chose the war one last time when it mattered most. Tony Stark could build anything. He could fix almost anything. The one thing he could never quite fix was the distance between who he was and who he wanted to be. And he spent his entire life, every sleepless night, every battle, every sacrifice, trying to close that gap. He almost made it. For 5 years on a lake, he almost made it. So yeah, if you got a little emotional just now, good. That means it worked. That means Tony Stark did what Tony Stark always does. He got through your defenses when you weren't looking. Rest in peace, Tony. You were the best of us. Even when being the best of us absolutely, completely, undeniably sucked. Drop a comment right now. Did this video actually make you emotional? Be honest, and tell me which character should get this treatment next, because I have a list and it is long and nobody is safe. Like and subscribe if Tony Stark deserved better, which he did, obviously. Yeah, that's why being Iron Man actually sucks.